let's get corrupted. What is going on, everybody? It's your boy Joe with Meteoric Serpents coming back at you for another episode of the Colubrid Corruption Podcast. Guys, it's great to be back. Another week down. It is snowing outside again. Gotta love New York, right? But guys, welcome to episode number 98 of Colubrid Corruption. We're getting so close to that 100 mark. It's awesome. I'm getting really excited for it. So, yeah. But guys, if it's your first time listening to the podcast, make sure you hit that like button on today's episode. Make sure you hit subscribe here on YouTube. Always chasing that next big subscriber milestone. So anything you do for that, I really appreciate it. Share it out with your friends. Let them know that you enjoy this podcast if they're fellow snake keepers. So yeah, get them corrupted as well. That's the whole goal. And if you don't like listening to podcasts here on YouTube, you could also check us out on all the major audio podcasting platforms like Apple, Spotify, Google Play, YouTube Music, Amazon Music, all that good stuff. Go check us out on there. Leave us a 5-star rating, drop a review. Again, share it out with a friend. That always helps out. So thank you guys. Guys, as always, my social media links are down below. You can check me out at Meteoric Serpents everywhere. You could also find the guests' Instagram in the description as well. So go follow them. Go check them out. We're going to bring Dan on pretty soon here. But yeah. Guys, if you are looking to support a good cause in Colubrid land, you should check out the CCR Conservation Fund. That's the place where you could donate that's going directly towards colubrid conservation. Dr. Loafman and his students are doing great work out there in Iowa. I know they have plans for other projects as well. So if you're looking to throw some money somewhere to a good cause, you should definitely go check that out. All the proceeds at the Colubrid Fest auction are also going towards this. So speaking of Colubrid Fest, guys, Colubrid Fest 2026, it's going down. As I've told you before, September 25th through 27th. As always, the 3-day event, the hangout, the talks, the show over in Evansville, Indiana. Very excited. So I hope to see you all there and meet you all. I'll be vending once again. So yes, I will catch you all there. Guys, if you're looking for more out of what you get from this podcast, you should definitely go ahead and click that first link in the description. That takes you to the Meteoric Serpents Patreon. It's a way for you to support the show, but on top of that, you get a lot of cool perks with it, such as being in a Discord group chat with a bunch of cool, like-minded people who are just really passionate about colubrids, early access to pre-recorded episodes, ad-free episodes that you could listen to like any other podcast, as well as giveaways, discounts on anything I produce, lots of very good stuff. So feel free to go check it out at least. Go see the perks, see if maybe it's something you'd like to do. I think the people in there are having a really good time. So definitely go check it out and appreciate all my supporters because they're the best. Let's see here. We have our Colubrid of the week, as I'll be calling it. This one was too cool not to share. It's from a former guest of the show, Mr. Stephen Cush, the scrub shepherd himself, one of his Yucatan tiger rat snakes. Man, tiger rats are dreamy. Stephen always puts out high quality reels like this. So shout out, Stephen. Thanks for sharing this. But yeah, check out a really cool tiger rat snake that he produced, which is awesome. So yeah, shout out Steven. I'm also happy to report before we get into this that I think Colubrid Corruption will be picking up a new sponsor quite soon in the near future that I'm excited about. I'm excited to partner with this person. It's a breeder. I will say if anyone is ever looking to sponsor the show, you can inquire with myself, send me a message. Happy to discuss that. But yeah, really excited to be working with this person. Gonna quickly say what's up to the chat and we'll get right into it tonight. I see a lot of people, viewers, even if they're not commenting. We got Shane above all scales. What's up, Shane? Appreciate you being here. Keller, as always, and yes, Dan is the man. This will be a good one for sure. Mike Kosicki, appreciate you as always. We got Chris from Copperhead Reptilia. What's going on? And Andrew Hughes, one of the Patreon supporters. Appreciate you, Andrew. Thanks for tuning in. But with that, guys, I think it's time to bring on our guest here. So let's give a warm welcome to none other than Dan Sheehan. How are you, man?
How's it going?
Pretty good. Good to have you here. I think this was long overdue, to be honest.
I remember us talking about it a while back when I don't know if it was just Colubrid Fest or not. We ran into each other and you asked about it, and I was like, "Yeah, I got no problem with it." And then kind of just
I
everything else
know.
happens, and
I know. Your name has obviously been on my radar for a long time. I bought an animal from you. Oh man, it's probably almost 2 years ago now. And I was just like, I have to get Dan on the show, and I just like never asked. It was just one of those things where I just never asked, but shit happens. But you're here now, so it is what it is. But good to have you. Um, as we kind of get into everything, I always like to start, kind of hear the origin story for you, how you got into reptiles, how that got you to where your collection's at today.
so I think like most people here, maybe not the location, but um, I don't remember this as vividly as my family does, but I grew up in the mountains of Western PA, and there's a picture that my mom is refusing to let me have because it's her last moment of my childhood purity in her eyes of me walking out of the woods with a 6 foot black rat snake when I'm about 3 years old, and it's just on my shoulders, and I'm just like, and my
Nice.
mom started screaming apparently, and then fast forward almost my senior year of high school. Um, Outside, buying a nose from the pet store, a friend of mine was like, "Hey, let's go to a reptile show," and I was like, "Wait, those are a thing?" Because I kind of just lived under a little rock, and I was happy I didn't get on Facebook for like 5 years after it started, um, and went to Hamburg for the first time, or Morgantown as it's called now. Anybody that's into venomous, you'll understand that Hamburg's a special place for a lot of people with venomous. Went there and then started working for random people whenever I could to kind of get into the show for free. And
Right.
one thing led to another, and now it's been um, almost 15 years,
Okay.
and just keeping and slinging reptiles and enjoying life.
All right. Awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. And your collection today, you guys have a pretty diverse collection over there. I kind of want to know what led into you getting into the things that you keep now. Where did that all come about?
So probably 6 months after I started going to a reptile show, I know everybody's seen like the reptile magazine or something with just that big, angry, mouth gaping Dendrophila on the cover of things. And it was one of those snakes that just kind of always interests me because I don't know why, but I was always a fan of the big, angry snakes. And I started working for an importer, and he hands me a bag and he's like, "Hey, unbag these." And, I don't think anything of it 'cause working with him, nothing was venomous, you know, deadly venomous. And I reach into this bag because, stupid kid didn't even look into it, see what's going on in there. And I pull out a handful of Boiga that are biting my hand and biting my arm. And I'm like,
Oh
oh,
boy.
this is just a bit of a handful. Dropped a couple back in, put it in there. And I'm like, my arm's a little itchy, but like, it's just, snake bites. And then the guy I was working for at the time looked at me and was like, "You're a fucking idiot, aren't you?" And I was like, "Why?" And it's like, "Those are rear fang." I was like, "What's that?" And then just kind of went down the rabbit hole. Um, and then a friend of mine, actually the person that introduced me and Stacy, as many times as we crossed paths at Hamburg, we never actually like interacted with each other. He had Boiga cyanea, which is the green cat-eyed snake,
Yeah.
and those ones caught my attention because green's my favorite color, and I had the opportunity to buy those, and they were the first Boiga I ever purchased outside of like getting paid in wild caught dendrophila from
Okay.
my boss at the time. And it's just been spiraling downhill from there. I ran into Ashley online when I was trying to figure out the way to buy wholesale weird snakes so I could sell those because I worked with an importer and that's what he was doing. I was like, oh, maybe I can find a way to do this because I liked it. I like seeing different things come out and
Yeah.
having the ability to talk to about different species and not just the same thing over and over again. And then, we started talking, and then I heard her story about how she brought in the first divergence, and then it was just hey, I'm going to do a small order this month, and then next quarter, because it's like quarterly that she does her imports, and
Yeah.
then it's like here's another bigger import, and then made friends with Chris over in the Netherlands. I think it's the Netherlands. I always forget flags over there. Got some Boiga from him, and then I got some Tula Zoo stock, and it just kind of spiraled out of control because once you figure one of them out, for the most part, they're all the same.
Okay.
Outside of the Trigonota that I have, which they kind of break a lot of the norms for the Boiga. They're a semi-arid species. They kind of look like little brown little snakes. They only max out at like 24, 30 inches
Interesting.
versus like your big dendros and like I have like the Lattifasciata, and then you get into the Cynodon and that whole little complex with the Guangxiensis, the Simonensis, big head, long, slender body.
Yeah. Interesting.
So,
All right. Very cool. And so, yeah, it was that first interaction with Boiga that kind of sealed the deal for you. And then,
yeah,
finding Cyania that you could get in.
yeah, because I, I was wanted venomous. Now I possibly can have where I live. There's local regulations that kind of stopped me for a long time. I kind of got my fix for a while working for Al Quartz, Viper Keeper. I worked for him for 5 years after I met him at a local show, and he was asking for help.
Okay.
Um, he's a wealth of knowledge. He's a bit of a quirky guy, but I wouldn't trade my time with Al with anybody. He
Yeah.
was okay, but yeah, that
Cool.
was a good time.
Yeah. So, when it comes to like species like this, I have to ask, like, what drew you in so much to, I guess, kind of the unknown? Because a lot of Boiga that are available to the general public are a lot of imported animals. There's not a
Yeah.
whole lot of captive breeding that's going on. So what made you want to take that plunge into trying to figure out these species and really work with them? Because it's not an easy task. And granted, you said you were kind of semi-green in the hobby when you started learning about these things. So I don't
Yeah.
know when it was that you decided to get like serious about them, but if you want to kind of talk about that.
Um, so it was, I think the best way to put it is like whenever I was working for the importer, like I would make some money. Sometimes I'd get paid off of like commission. Sometimes it would just be a flat rate depending on the show or whatnot.
Right.
Um, and sometimes instead of getting money, I'd get paid in animals. Or if I was there, sometimes I'd convince them that hey, that we shouldn't put that on the table as much as a lot of importers. If you've been around them, sometimes things get on the table that definitely should not be on the table.
Right.
Um, and in my naiveness, because I was so green, like I would be like, hey, can I take this sick animal home? Before crypto was a huge thing or anything like that. Excuse me. So I'd bring him home and try to nurse him back in. Did a lot of Southeast Asian stuff. Like I know Chaz was talking about the the Jansenite and everything like that. And I've brought in the Gonyosoma oxys, and I've treated them and got them established and resold them.
Nice.
But it was just one of those things. I liked a little bit of a challenge that kind of daily go in there, figure out what's going on, observe it, and work the problem. Right now, I work for a company because every day is a different day. It's a bit of a challenge every day. You always have some kind of issue you have to solve out. And I liked a little bit of a puzzle and the challenge to keep your brain moving a little bit because I've been in situations like in school and everything where you don't get challenged. You just sit there and they read from a textbook. It's a blank
Sure.
slate. This is what it is because this is what we say it is. And it's deadening is the best way to put it. If you sit there and you do the same thing over and over again, because I know a lot of people here, they don't want to work a 9 to 5 and same thing over and over again, that monotonous routine. Some people need that. I think for me, it's like just as a person of who I am, it kind of just beats you down and makes you lose interest in it. The Boiga were always something that, hey, anytime you interact with this, you're playing playing a little bit of fire because you could have a bad reaction if they get you somewhere.
Sure.
I've had a bad reaction from a cynodon bite, which is not even supposed to have issues for mammals. It's supposed to be bird oriented,
Interesting.
which was funny enough. But and then I've had no issues with taking melanota, cynea. Um, so it's that whole aspect of not really knowing what's going on, having that little bit of a niche that for a long time, like you had some people that were working with them, but it was very small. Not a lot of people were interested in them, and now you get these people that are like, "Oh, what's that?" Because instead of giving them a common name, you put a scientific name on there, and then they're like, "Oh," and it kind of gives you a chance to interact with people, but grade them and keep them from jumping in when they don't even know what it is.
Right.
Uh, But I've had people come back a couple shows later and like, "Hey, I'd like to buy a Cynea or a Nigroceps that I had out," and I was like, "Yeah, you know what it is. You're saying it to me. I know. I remember seeing and talking to you about it." So it was a lot easier than that versus somebody selling corn snakes where they're like, "That's a corn snake. Cool. I know I can toss that in a tub and it'll be good."
Right.
Um, so
Yeah, I'm sure that has to be a big thing with Boiga. I mean, I guess you could choose to be responsible like you are and kind of vet people a little bit, see if they know their stuff, or just kind of let it fall by the wayside. And where you currently are and where you're moving to, there's not a lot of restrictions on that, so people can pick them up. But in a lot of places you can't just sling around Boiga so easily. So um
that's the sad thing. Like I wish they were
yeah.
treated as harshly. Like I've seen more reactions from hognose than I've seen belega bites. Um, but from
Which
my experience,
I'm kind of with you on that too. Like I think it gets downplayed on hognose in all honesty, and that's not me. I know I've made the joke like I hognose aren't my favorite, but I think it is like downplayed a little bit. Like they could do damage. Like God forbid you have a bad reaction to it.
and like I have hognose. I'm not going to discredit them. I have westerns and I have tricolors, but um, I think the biggest thing with the Boiga for the most part is they're I've never really had a real bad bite. Usually, if they're gonna bite me, it's a snack, and it's if it's one of my
Right.
big melanota, they're gonna throw their weight behind it. Anybody else, it's you're really you're really trying to get a bite and clamp reaction, in my opinion.
Sure.
But the one bad bite I took, this was probably 2015, 2016. I was packing up a bag of Cynodon because I was sending them. I don't know if it was Terry or somebody else, but I know it was somebody that was keeping Boiga at the time. And my dad was helping me. My dad's not really a reptile person. And I had an 8 foot female Cynodon that I'm trying to put in a bag. So a big pillowcase. And she's coming up the one side. My dad grabbed her, like kind of roughly. And I see her go. And I'm just shoved my hand in her mouth because I'm like, please, if you bite my dad, he's going to kill you. And then I'm going to
Yeah.
have to explain how to refund this. And
Oh man.
nothing out of like disrespect for him or something. It's just how my dad would have reacted.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, but,
Gotcha.
That's
And like, how is an 8 foot cynodon? Because like they are just such long, like very slender animals. Like, are they intimidating? Like at that big adult size, with how skinny they are, is kind of my question.
for me, no, like that doesn't intimidate me because
Yeah.
they're telegraphable. Like if you've worked with them for a little bit, like even if you get like a big angry rat snake that kind of does like the S
Yep.
up, it's the same thing. You can telegraph that snake all day. You know where it's going, and if a lot of times they do tend to focus on faces, so you can have them in your hand, and the only thing they're doing is tracking your face.
Right.
So you just keep them in arm's reach, um, and just work from there. It's pretty easy. I know a couple people have some pretty ornery ones, but she was pretty chill.
Okay. Cool. Can
Yeah.
you kind of wait, I guess here we'll kind of start going like species by species a little bit. Can you list all the ones that you currently keep, and then from there the ones that you've bred slash are breeding currently?
All right. So I have the Tanajan I have a reverse trio of those. I'm still kind of getting them established. They're inconsistently eating for me. Because they
Those were
want
wild
this.
caught.
Yeah, those are
Okay.
100% wild caught. The only person that I know that's successfully bred those right now is Chris over in the Netherlands.
Okay.
Then you have the Lattifasciata. I'm just going off like the order in which I can think of my room. I have gotten eggs from those, and I should have hopefully another clutch coming soon if I get my female fat enough and happy. But I have 3.2 Lattifasciata. I have 1.1 Melanota at the moment, and I have bred those. Um, I have the 2.2 Boiga or 2.2 no, 2.3. It's just one of them's a baby of the regular green cat-eyed snake because they're there's a paper coming out that's going to split the Thailand ones off to a subspecies.
Hmm.
I have a lone male right now, and I'm working on getting some more of those. But I mean, back I've bred those for the last 5 years. My one female double clutches every year. As soon as her first clutch starts to hatch, usually within about a week, she'll drop her second clutch. Then you have the Cynodon, which I have not bred those. I have right now. I have 1.2 with an asterisk next to the 1.2. Um,
Okay.
I have right now 1.2 Divergence, which hopefully I'll be able to breed those next year. But I think my male is a little small for my female. I have 1.2 Boiga trigonata, which is the little brown ones I talked about. I'm trying to get those to breed, but it's been a little bit of a challenge for me because it's not the same typical setup I have. Then I have a pair of Boiga simonensis and Boiga guangxiensis, which I'm going to try to breed this year. I got locks last year, but I didn't get any eggs. That was my
Okay.
first attempt at those. I have Boiga nigerceps, and those bred for me last year. I think I'm holding back the other three babies. I sold one because my male's a bit of an impressive specimen. He came from uh, Matt McDowell. That snake has some history being triple sold to people, and
Oh,
somehow he ended up with me.
okay.
Um, trying to think what else I got. I know I'm missing something. I have one lone male Boiga Crepolini. I had two pairs at one point, and I was like, I think I can sell a pair. I sold a pair. I do not know if they are still around, unfortunately, and I did lose my female to egg binding last year.
I don't
So I
think
just
I've
have
ever heard
them.
that species name.
I think I have a picture on my Facebook. They're I forget the park. They named it after one of the parks, but it's the other common name's flathead boiga. They're about he's about 36, 40 inches long, slender, brown. And their head gets really spade like they flattened out pretty well. It's really spade like, um, more so than the other ones.
Okay.
It's if you're trying to look up the scientific name, it's
Okay.
KRAEP.
Yeah, I messed that up. Okay.
Yeah, it's
Got it.
yeah.
I'm trying to take notes as you run them off, and I'm already at like 8+, and I may have missed one.
I still have the Boiga multimaculata, the mini spotted cat snake. I have a pair of those from Thailand. Really happy with those. They should be able to breed for me next year. They're smaller species. I know I'm missing one. I'm going through my head. I used to be able to like go around my room, but I've been rearranging as I've been trying to get things moved. So
Yeah.
it's screwing my feng shui up. Yeah, that one. Uh, yeah, that might be it
Okay.
for Boiga. Yeah, that might be it for Boiga. I'm
That's a
probably
lot, man.
forgetting
That's
some.
a
I
that's a lot of species.
I did have Gemma Sink that I did recently sell those. If Patrick Holmes was here, he would be yelling in the group chat because they're not my favorite Boiga.
Oh, really?
Not a fan. I'm not a fan of solid black snakes.
Okay.
And they just seem so much angrier than all of my other Boiga. So I got rid of them recently. My friend has those, and he's trying to breed them.
Got it.
And then I've had a few others in the past. I've had Jaspedia. I've had people ask me about them. That is one snake that I don't know is ever going to be suitable for captivity. To be perfectly honest, as pretty as they are.
Quickly looking at and I know this is not the best source to look at, but I'm quickly looking at Wikipedia, and there's a lot more species slash subspecies than I think I ever realized.
There's a lot, and a lot of them aren't in the hobby.
Yeah.
But it's like you have the trapezii, which is a species I would like to get down the line. That's
Right.
from Indo. You have the Benculensis, which I'm trying to get another group in of those. I miss those. They are basically like a small green cynodon. They're beautiful.
Mm.
That was actually my first time interacting with Josh Alder, and now
Okay.
Josh is a good friend of mine because of that. And we're going on a vacation. Me, him, his wife, and my girlfriend will be down in Baja this year, and we're looking forward to it. Um, but yeah, that was my first interaction with him, and that kind of just inspired off the same thing with Ashley, where just
Nice.
start talking to people that like weird snakes.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice, man. It's definitely a good list that you have, working there. I kind of want to
fasciata.
go. What was that?
That might be, did I say Lata fasciata? Because that might have been the one I missed.
Yeah, you said that second.
Okay, right.
Yeah. Um. Okay, so we probably too much to go through all of them, but I'll let you kind of decide. Because again, I haven't done a ton of Boiga content on here, and I'm cool with like
Okay.
deep diving as much as you kind of want to. Go ahead, and I'm gonna let you go with this one. Kind of pick a species and just talk about your experience with keeping and breeding if you have, and just like how that's been with everything.
Excuse me. I think I'll just start with like the classic, the OG for me with the Cynia.
Sure.
Um, Babies definitely probably the most hardest part of the whole operation there. They when they first start out, you're either just feeding them or feeding them geckos to get them going. Um, for me, it usually takes 5 to 6 months for me to get them solidly on pinkies, and after that, they're almost bulletproof as long as you keep them hydrated. People kind of get the misconception that they need to be humid 100% of the time. The biggest thing with them is just as babies, you can't let them dry out, but if you don't have ventilation with them, it's game over. You will get blisters, and you'll get a respiratory infection in a snake that is thinner than a pencil. And trying to fix that is pretty darn hard.
Okay.
But breeding them is pretty straightforward. I've only had one female ever really give me issues putting in a male. I know people talk about the cannibalism with them, and I've only had the one female ever clamp a male, but everything else from that, it's been a non factor. Um, I think that's the one thing people always worry about. I know Aaron Solano, when he still had Boiga, had issues with him trying to breed divergence.
Okay.
The females would get eaten by the males, or the vice versa. I forget which one it was. It's been a while since I talked to him, but he had issues with cannibalism. I think that was the dendro complex and the ones that are the same body type. So your nigroceps and tinea, the whole melanota, lat fasciata divergence.
Yeah.
Those ones are the ones that you had the issue. I've never heard of any reports of cynodon or that complex going after each other in terms of cannibalism or anything like that.
Okay.
The other thing people have issues with is getting them to hatch. I've talked to a whole bunch of people like, "Hey, I got eggs," and I'm like, "Okay, that's good. That's half the battle."
Yeah.
People are like, "Hey, I'm losing eggs," and I've even talking to Breeze Exotics when she still had her nigroceps and her females now in my care. Um, People go the traditional route, and I've never used vermiculite in any way, shape, or form for hatching my eggs. It's always been just straight sphagnum, and
Straight
I've had
sphagnum.
solid success, no issues with it. I honestly think some of the a little bit of that acidity from there, because like some of my eggs do get a little bit tan and stained and whatnot from the moss. I personally think that helps. There's no scientific proof behind it, but she switched over and she had solid luck with no early denting, and it kept them humid enough and plump so that way there's no issues with it. Because some people, a lot of Boiga eggs, if you miss them for a day or two, they will look relatively shriveled. Um, wrap them with paper towel for a few days until they kind of plump mostly back up, and then put them back in the moss, and they usually rock and roll. You get a little bit of stretching on them if your moss is too wet, but it's not like
Interesting.
you know your whole egg is exploding, if that makes any sense.
Yeah. No, I always find it so interesting to hear these, you know, tough eggs, especially with animals that come from the same environment as some other stuff, like your same regions at the very least that are like easier to incubate at the very least. Um, so that's at least interesting to hear. What is there any reason why the no vermiculite? Like, did something happen that it just didn't
I've
work?
tried, I've tried a few times, and like that's where I started losing my first clutch of Cyania eggs. I separated them all out because I caught them pretty early, so I was able to pull off the clump. I had everybody singled up, pushed down, and vermiculate a little bit, and I think I lost like half the eggs, and it was from a proven female. So I was like, okay, it doesn't look good. Like they all had veins, they were all developing. So I was like, what's the issue here? Um, and then the second clutch came around, and I just was like, you know what? Let's just you know try something different here. Scientific experimentation changed one variable. Temp stayed the
Yeah,
same, so that's what I was told. I was like, okay, we're sticking with that. And then I went just did straight moss inside of a sim container box. So bottom was moss, put a little bit of moss on top. And 120 days later, little green-headed orange snakes trying to bite.
nice. Okay, very cool.
That was, that little thing that's worked for me, and that's one of those things like, if that's what's working, I'm not going to change it. I know people have had success doing it with vermiculite or the sim hatchway, where your water gel on top and just putting them right on the rack. Um, but for me, that's never worked.
Okay, gotcha. Fair enough. And you said you've been breeding Cyanea the last 5 years or so?
Yeah, this will be year 6.
Awesome. Very cool. And just like if you can just go through your husbandry for like adults and stuff, like what do you typically do?
So my female's in a 4x2x2. My male's in a 2 foot cube. He's they are significantly smaller, both in stature and size, like thickness. Um, I usually do live plants, mostly pothos. It's easy. It's damn near bulletproof. So if they ramage through it, it's not going to cause any problems. It'll just come back. For me, it's a extra indicator. So if I start to see it droop a little bit because pothos likes to drink a lot of water, I'm like, okay, I got to spray down a little bit heavy. Um, and then it kind of helps pull that water out so it's not going to sit there and get overly humid, if that makes any sense. It'll keep the relative humidity stable, but it's not going to give you that swamp because it will pull as much water out as it can. So if she does lay down on the low end, because I have cork tubes and a couple rounds down low, and then her big nest box that I leave in there year round. Um, so if she decides to lay down underneath it, sometimes she likes to squish herself behind her nest box because it's pretty much the width of her cage. She'll do that, but she hasn't had any. She's never laid anywhere else but the nest box for me, which is nice. Um, but it's pretty much from there. It's just tweaking it a little bit for the size of the animal. Like I have some smaller plants that are vining for the most part in a couple other cages. But if you go the pothos route, it gives you an extra warning sign for any time with your boiga, and plus you'll get more interaction from them because they'll come out and start drinking the droplets of leaves because sometimes their standing water is they're a little hesitant to drink from it,
Okay.
so it helps you a little bit there.
Yeah, because I mean, they come from that like rainforest environment where it's always fresh water dripping off the leaves. So I'm sure
Yeah.
they do that in the wild.
For the most part, like you see a lot of the pictures, it's like a riparian habitat along the mangrove swamps for them. So it's up in the trees, running water below, and you're gonna get a daily storm.
Yep.
And then for breeding season, it's just for me. I found a paper that talked about because it kind of got brought up to me when I was talking to a friend about pine snakes, how males will travel and travel and travel during breeding season. They did a study and they did track a few, and they watched a female just go from nest to nest to nest to nest, um, pretty much nonstop during breeding season. So for me, it's linked that up with bird breeding down in Southeast Asia and just kind of watched. They had huge spikes of rain, so I spray them heavy. I
Mm,
try to time it usually in the fall or spring with heavy storms, so you have that low pressure dip so they can feel that as well. And then I just keep feeding it. So I know Chaz talked about it yesterday too, about you can put 5 chicks in an animal and then you won't even see it like 2 days later.
right.
Um, but it's the same thing with them. I think a lot of the Southeast Asian stuff you can kind of there's a pretty solid blueprint to follow. You just have to figure out is it more of a montane species, so a little bit cooler, versus some of the lower land species that get a little bit hotter. That's really it for the most part, I think.
Right. And what are those temps you're keeping on them?
So her hotspot's about 85 degrees. I'll bump it up a little bit. Sometimes I'll bump it down, but her hot side's 85, then she can drop down into the high 60s.
Okay.
During certain times of the year with no issue, as long as that day temp comes back up.
Yep. Cool. All right.
And that's most of my Boiga because I keep everybody in the same room. The only ones that kind of break that norm are the Trigonata, and I have them with like a 90-degree hotspot.
Okay. Um. Okay. So 90-degree hotspot. Interesting. So are all these Boiga those more like lowland species, like you're implying they stay a little bit warmer generally?
Not so like the Guangxiensis and the Simonensis, they get a little bit higher up, but they're not montane in my opinion. So they can still
Okay.
handle the higher temps. They still do well in the higher temps. Um, but they're they're not as demanding. Like I don't have as big of an issue with like versus the Cyanide, which if you don't keep them hydrated enough, you'll get the neck wrinkles. And at a certain point, I haven't seen them go away. Once I get them, they're kind of there. You can feed them all day, and they still won't go away.
Right.
Um, but I've never had any issues like Melanota, I've seen them kind of lack some of that sheen if you don't keep their humidity up high enough, and their temps warm. If you keep them too cold, I've seen that kind of they get a little dull almost, and you kind of get that veining on the scales, even with
Okay,
humidity. I think they need some of that warmth to kind of keep it up.
gotcha. And do you generally, I mean, besides like the extra spraying for like breeding time, do you generally keep the enclosures humid for most of them?
Yes, my lowest ambient for them is usually about 55, so they're
Okay,
still a decent bit. It might drop a little bit during the winter, but that's when I just work a little bit more
right,
spraying, and usually that's when I'm trying to pair because that's when we get a decent amount of low pressure systems coming through.
fair. Okay. Yeah, I was gonna ask for you, like, what is that breeding season time? Can they go all year if you let
They,
them,
they can
or
go they can go whenever you want to trigger them.
okay,
There's no brumation aspect of it that you need to get them down. Some people do like to cool them. If you give them just a bit of a seasonal variation, so you do that dry out period, you kind of can cool
yep,
it down a little bit. So you're not like baking them out with the heat and not spraying them as much. And then during that breeding season, it's muggy as all heck. So spray, bump your heat up a little bit if you don't drop it down, and just hammer them with food. As much as I wouldn't do it personally. I'm fairly certain you could probably triple clutch some species if you tried hard enough. But you're going to be doing them. That's going to be around the clock.
gotcha. Okay, very cool. That's interesting. And um, will any of these guys like multi clutch during the year, whether it's back to back or even just like I don't know how far apart they might go, but are do they multi clutch throughout the year?
I think they multi-clutch. So like my Sania female, she'll do. I've tried to stop her, and she got real thin the second time she dropped the clutch, and I was like, okay, at this point, I'm not even going to try to stop you. If you want
And were
to
those
double clutch,
back and were those back to back?
no. So she'll delay her first clutch, and usually within a week on either side of the first clutch hatching is the second clutch will be coming. So
Being
I have it,
laid.
pre- yeah, it's pretty well
Okay.
timed. Um, so because it's still in that kind of time frame where I'm still feeding heavy because I'm trying to get her back up. So I haven't found that middle ground because I tried last year and she still ended up dropping 10 eggs, and I'm like, you look like a twig. Why did you
Yeah.
do this to yourself? Um, but she's a solid animal. I think this year might be the last year I breed her. I'm gonna try to give her next year off. Um, I have gotten away with cohabbing them. I know in the Boiga hobby it's a little taboo, but um, the person I received her from, she was cohabbed with that male for a long period of time, and the only time I separate is during feeding, and I haven't had any issues. But
I don't cohab shame here. I posted a story of two cockeye being fed while cohab. So if anyone wants to come at me, come at me. But supervised.
I think rat snakes are a little different than a snake that can potentially cannibalize each other.
They are different, but it's definitely a worry. I've had some like
Yeah.
quick close calls where like I have to be quick with tongs and like separate. I try to like drag them to separate corners. So it is what it is.
I had that issue. I didn't know my falsies got put back together because Stacy helps me out sometimes, and I was going in to feed the female, and I'm there, and then next thing you know, I see a second head, and I'm like, crap,
Uh,
trying to get another rat there to toss in
yeah.
his mouth so he doesn't come after me.
Oh man. Yeah.
Yeah,
But no, that's really cool, man. I'm glad you've, had the success you've had with the Cyania because they're really cool. Is that like would you say that's one of the better introductory Boiga for someone who's looking to get into them? Because I've heard it from like a couple people. I think Justin Smith, that was like his first, and he
Yeah,
was doing well with them, and you as well. So
I think so. Outside of the black eyes that are coming in, which I don't know if the paper is officially released, so I don't want to go in all that fun stuff. Um, I know Dan Mallory is working on it too, but they're not wild caught. Like outside of those ones, they're everyone's been here has been here. So
okay,
it's you're getting an animal that you know is, unless it somehow got smuggled in here recently, which has been not really a thing. You have a solid captive bred animal base.
fair enough.
So you should have something that is feeding. Um, Most of the sellers I know, me and Terry are the only ones permanently stateside that I know of. And then Kevin McCurley, which not knocking him, not the biggest fan, but the man has done a lot for the hobby before
Yeah,
he went on his way. And from what I can tell, because I've seen him at a couple shows, he's trying to come back. So I the book's still open for him for me, but I'm not a fan of keeping them in racks. But
yeah,
back to the topic, you have a solid captive red base. You have somebody that's willing to help you because they've worked with that snake. They've got it to where it needs to be. They're generally relatively placid, so you can handle them if you want to. You get a spicy one here or there, like any kind of species of snake. Um, Sometimes they just hatch out and they're like, "I want to murder the world," and it's just how it is. But for them, it's pretty straightforward. They're not a unmanageable size like we talked about an 8 foot cynodon. If
right.
you get a mainland cynodon, you're looking at an 8, 10 foot snake.
Yeah,
Um, my female is about 6.5 and maybe 7, but she's almost 13 years old now, so she's been around the block.
they stay pretty slender
Um,
too, right? The
yeah,
Cyanea.
so probably like a subadult corn snake thickness, but a little bit taller.
Okay, yeah,
Yeah, you're not. I think and you're looking like a tombstone kind of shape. It's not round, it's not triangular like some of the other ones are, where it's kind of hard to judge the
gotcha.
body condition if you're not familiar with it.
Yeah,
Um, Niagara Steps would probably be the next one for me because the babies start off feeding like you can tease feed them right off the bat and they'll start to
okay,
catch on pretty quick. I've had friends though that say their bite's a little bit more problematic. I haven't been bit by one of those, but I've had a friend get some localized necrotic tissue damage from a bad bite from one of them.
got it.
But they're pretty easy. The wild caught ones establish quick on rodents. And then the other one for me would be Melanota, if you want to start because the price range. Because once you get into like the Lattifasciata, the Multicincta, um, and the Divergence, you start getting a higher pay tier. So it's a little bit
Okay,
harder. Like you get wallet blocked. Um, Multicincta would be nice if they weren't kind of uncommon. They look like a dendro, so they're the many ring cat snake. So they have just a lot more tighter banding, but they start off feeding pretty easily. They have a big head, so if you did have one that was a little bit problematic, you can assist feed them pretty easily. Um, but I think Sunny is probably an easy place to start because you just know what you're getting most of the time.
got it. Okay, very cool. Anything else you want to cover on the Cyanea before we?
Um, Not really. Like I don't think like outside of the Jaspidea, which are an entirely different issue. And you can talk to a whole bunch of people. They haven't had good luck. They're not as specialized feeders as you would think. The good thing about the
Okay.
hobby is like, we do have a lot of chicks now available. Like me and Stacy are getting ready to breed our own quail again, so I'll have
Nice.
my own feeders. But you can get birds cheap. It's not a problem anymore. They're cheaper than rodents nowadays. I think they're like 75 cents to like 50 cents. Sometimes you even see them for a quarter, depending on the time of year, versus like $1, $1.25 for something.
Okay.
Yeah.
Very cool. And then obviously, which so I don't quite know where taxonomy's at. Again, I'm looking at a Wikipedia list, which is probably wrong, but like the Dendrophila complex, I guess I'll call it. Is that
Yeah,
fair for a
that's a
bunch of
fair.
the species you keep?
Yeah, that's a fair assessment. So you have the complex there. You have your multi-cincta. So all your Philippine species that are if Zach Loafman's going to listen to me, he's going to yell at me. So you know how if you look at the trees, you'll have like a split chunk. So you have your cynodon complex is the best way to put it in my brain because that's how I remember it.
Yeah.
Your long, slender, big head, but long, slender body. In that group, you have Simonetsis guansiensis,
Okay.
Crepolini, Multicincta. I think I think Derpezii and them kind of get lumped in there, if not, they're a sub branch of that. Melanota should have been split off because I don't haven't seen anybody say BD Melanota. It's just B Melanota
Yeah.
now.
Correct. That's what I'm seeing here, I should say.
Yeah. But then you have your Dendro, your common 90% of wild caught imports that everybody like, oh, it's $200. I'm gonna go buy this instead of the $500 Shania, $400 whatever you have it at, because it's cheaper. And then next thing you know, you have no idea what you're getting into, and you're fighting a whole bunch of internal parasites and not feeding animal, and
Yeah.
it just gets stressed out because they're a little high strung. Then you have your multi-cincta, which is your many-banded cat snake. Somehow they're just easier to care for. You have Anectans, which kind of is a subspecies from one of the islands that looks almost identical unless you have it labeled and you know what it is. The differences are minute. You have the Latifasciata, which are becoming a favorite of mine, which is big black saddles and big yellow saddles with black interstitialing. It's really nice.
Nice.
Your divergence and the whole other mess that you have. And then you have like your Indian Boiga, which nobody's ever going to get.
Yeah.
There's one that's I think it's not adamantius, but it's from the Andaman Islands. So, but it's basically a brick red snake, and it's so pretty.
Oh, interesting.
Like that's one that was in the hobby for a little bit. There was, but for the most part, the Tanas just kind of came back. They've been out of the hobby for a long time. But that complex, they're weird because I don't think the Cynia and the Nigroceps even fit in there. They're kind of their own little separate branch off. But you can kind of look at the body type. So you have Cynia are big-headed, but they're not triangular. Same with the Nigroceps. The Gemicincta kind of fall. They're more on the dendrocomplex aspect of it, but they're probably the closest thing from them that I'd lump in. Like they're almost like the midway point to me between them and the Cynia and the complex. But that big
now
head is.
I do want to say I apologize to the audience that does not know scientific names. I would go do like a slight bit of research if you're listening to this, like quick Google search as you hear us say these names. Just because like many of them don't have like pure common names that are easily used.
So
I mean, a couple do, but
I can break it down because most of the ones we're going to talk about are the common ones. So your Gemicincta is your Sulawesi black mangrove snake. Those are the ones that start out really pretty, really tight orange to red banding, like yellow to orange banding, and then they'll fade out to solid black. If you like the Bolines or like the indigo kind of thing where they go really black and shiny, that's a snake for you, but it's going to be angry all the time. And you walk by its enclosure, it's going to smack its face against glass. The multi-cincta.
You're right. Patrick won't like hearing you say that.
Patrick has calm ones, but So those are starting to come in wild caught, and the wild caught ones kind of follow the same thing like I've seen with the Madagascar and giant hognose, where the wild caught ones are tame, but
Okay.
the captive bred ones are hunts.
Interesting.
I, I don't know. It makes no sense to me that captive bred giant hognose are hissy little bitey things, but the wild caught ones you can pick a sack full of them out, get them up to temp, and they're still like, yeah, I don't care. Um, but so the many-banded cat snake, it's like the halfway point between a gemicincta and a dendro, the common mangrove snake or the gold ring cat snake. It's tight banding, but it keeps the banding as it's an adult. Boiga cynodon is your dog-tooth cat snake.
Yeah.
Super long, kind of coffin-shaped head. Um, there is another species that I'm not entirely sure it is that because it wasn't sold to me as that, but I don't know. Should have posted it. If not, I know Stacy's posted it on Roots, Scoots, and Scales. There's a orange female that I have that a couple people look just if you look off of one of Dan Leary's episodes, it's Boiga Filipina or the Philippine cat snake. But there's a couple that get called the Philippine cat snake.
I'm sorry. What am I looking for on?
There's a orange cynodon. There might be two of them when they were cohab together for a little bit.
All right. Let me look.
You'll see it's just a big head of it. Now I'm looking on my Instagram, see if I can find it. Yeah, it's going to be on the business page, I think. Yeah, it's on this page. I think it's on the business page. If not, I'll shoot her a text and make a post about it. Because I know she has some good pictures of them.
Or, yeah, you can send her a text and she can message me pictures because that way I could pull them up as well. I'm not finding it, but there's a chance I could have.
I know I've seen pictures, and she might have just sent it to me and then not posted it.
Gotcha.
That's the one thing I know. I talk to a lot of people, but I'm horrible with posting pictures.
That's okay.
Like, I'll talk to people at shows and like, "What, you have that?" And I was like, "Yeah, I've had it for a while." And like, I've got tiger rats that only a few people know I have.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I have king rats. I have baron eye. I have ridley eye, northern pines. I got a Crebo. I had moose around it, but I traded that to somebody at a Colubrid Fest. I actually needed it back. A bunch of corn snakes and some other small random stuff, but
as I am scrolling through, though, I really like the look of some of these Boiga. They are beautiful. I mean, I say that anytime I see them, but yeah.
the one that's in the screenshot of me, the thumbnail.
Is that the striped one?
That's Fury. She is that's my pride and joy. I'm gonna try to breed her this year. She's grown a lot. I think so. The hard part is with Boiga, is depending on the locality, it changes species, but then you're also looking at physical characteristics, but that snake wipes them all out. In a lot of ways, people used to tell dendro versus melanota because sometimes you get mixed shipments. Is, hey, did it eat? Okay, that's probably a melanota. And she came in eating right off the rip. So you can see she wasn't the biggest snake then. She has a bit of a pyramiding to her, which is good, but no wrinkles, shiny scales.
Yeah, it's
That's a
really nice.
really old picture. She's only got like a few small breaks in that line, but the rest of her is solid.
Yeah. Yeah, this is like, I mean, based off this, kind of when you got her, and it's almost 4 years ago based on this post. So yeah.
Yeah, I've been really patient with her because she's very special to me, and I didn't want her to get eaten because my male is giant. I think on my page you can probably see a picture of my big male that I got from a buddy of mine in Florida when he was getting out of them because he was tired of dealing with FWC.
Okay.
Because that one should be, that's a little far down, but not super crazy. But I'm just shy of 6 foot, and I have him stretched out on the ground, and he is just stereotypical pose, like ready to bite the crap out of anything that goes in front of his face.
Yeah.
Um,
Nice,
but,
man.
Cool.
So I'm sorry we went off track there.
It's okay. But the lead fasciata, to be honest with you, I don't know the common name.
Okay.
I just everybody kind of calls them laddies or ladder fasciata. So I'll own up to it, not going through and looking at the common name. But when you start looking at the niche species that you work with, most of us we do use the scientific name because it's a little bit easier. I'm trying to think where we're going off on this tangent.
We were kind of just talking about the whole dendro complex in general, since you have a good amount of them.
But that complex is because they're standing. Sorry, I got balancing on my laptop stand here. When you're looking at that, for the most part, it's all just different islands, so they're genetically similar enough where you can cross them. There's depending on who you ask, if it's a full species or a natural integrate, there's Boiga sansangomai. Ashley has some good pictures of the sansangomai. It looks like people have made a Latifasciata Cynia cross, but the typical cross is supposed to be Cynia and a Dendro or Dendromelanota.
Okay.
But let me see if I can pull up Ashley's picture and send it to you. Sure. I know she won't mind me using it.
And remind me, have you bred any of those species?
So I've bred the Latifasciata, the ones I actually picked up at Colubrid Fest. I have eggs from them.
Oh, nice.
I've bred Dendro once before, but I missed the eggs because I didn't know she took. She didn't show really the signs. I did try to incubate those, and they never made it to the distance. I got to them a little too late. I've bred Melanota. They're fun species. And then other than that, I haven't really gotten. This year would be the first year. My other laddies are up to size. These ones were an adult pair that reverse trio I picked up. And then the Gemicincta, that's my Filipina, if that's what you want to go by.
Interesting.
So if you look at that compared to a normal Cynodon, it's a entirely different kind of color, but it's the same body structure and body type.
Okay.
My whole thing with it is we have Philippine locale Cynodon that looked like normal Cynodon. So I don't know if it's a color form, in my opinion, or if it's a full species. And taxonomy is one of those things I don't fully trust it because it's most of the time it's somebody going for their grad paper and trying to change something. If it's a new species, okay, but it goes back and forth. It's a little weird to me. But not to discredit it or make sure anybody wants to do that, but when you have people out there like Hosier down in Australia and stuff, not where people are just changing things because they feel like it and they can.
Right, and I mean, the Boiga just seem like just obscure enough that there's not a lot of information out there as is. So I'm sure the taxonomy gets pretty weird there.
But I'm sending you a picture of Ashley's one of the pictures is Ashley Sanson Gomai right now, and you'll
Okay.
kind of see. I think that's the Laddie hybrid, so it kind of matches what they look like. I know she has some other pictures, but that's the intergrade. They kind of look similar. I know Chris Shannon had one he found in the wild at one point that looked a little different, but kind of had similar behending to it.
Okay.
Um, but with those, they're not really common. I know Chris has produced one, like he said he was going to do one clutch just to see if it worked. But he's not selling any of those to the public. I think he one egg hatched out, so the fecundity isn't the best, but it's pretty decent.
Okay.
I've people have asked me if I was going to do it, and I said I was going to try, but I don't know if I'd release them if I did it, and I got anything viable from them.
Right.
Uh, but I know my brain thought of something, and I'm trying to remember what it was because my brain's going this way and that way at the same time.
No, that's okay. I'll help out slightly. The dendros get a bit bigger than cyanea do, right? So what's like caging like? No?
No.
Okay.
So I haven't found that to be true. At least the melanota, they get bigger.
Okay.
They're I wouldn't put any of them once they're even like in subadult size in anything less than a 4x2. You're looking at a lot stockier. Like my laddies, I keep in a 2 foot cube. I
Oh, okay.
the one big male I have, he's about 5 foot. I'm getting ready to move him up. My plan is to move everybody up uh, to a 3x2, but most of the common accepted size requirements that we've kind of all agreed on for the most part or followed has been from the Tula Zoo in Russia. They're one of the places that most of the founding stock for a lot of species came in from,
Okay.
which we can't get anymore because of world events, at least not directly.
Yeah.
But that's uh, that's basically the baseline of where a lot of people, if you had any kind of experience getting them to breed, that was one of the few resources you had to look up. Where Tula Zoo kind of break down, like the Guangxiensis, which is the Guangxi cat snake. A lot
Yeah.
of them are named off of where they're found. They're one of the only people that I know that have produced them, and they have a breakdown. They're submontane, so they do get a little bit colder. I have no supplemental heat on them. The way their heat works because of the way PVC is such a wonderful insulator. And I will tout to the heavens of how good the Arcadia lights are. But a Jungle Dawn, the 20, I think it's the 21 or the 12-watt ones. It's about 11 inches long, about this big. We'll get a cage up with planting and stuff and create the perfect thermal gradient where they're not looking for more heat. They'll get up close to it and pseudo bask, basically. Is the best way to put it because there's not a legit basking light. But I've never had one wrap around it trying to look for more heat. I've had them
Right.
hide in, and it's worked pretty well for me. Before I put a heat panel in there, I had I think it was the larger wattage one, not the full like 4 foot one, but it's like 30 inches long. I had that heating a Cyanea cage, and she's still like produced with just that for the time being before I put the heat panel in and I rewired everything with the thermostat. So they're a lot more forgiving than people think.
Yeah, I mean, I could say I keep Guangji volantai, the bamboo rats. So I'm at least familiar with something that's from that region. So yeah, I could
They're
only imagine that they don't need to get as warm
yeah,
as probably some of the other species.
they're one of my favorites actually. If you look, I know I have a picture of a baby on my Instagram. They have bright, stupidly colored orange eyeballs
On
as
yours or the
babies.
shared one?
Give me 1 second. I will let you know because it's on mine, if you go like all the way to the bottom, is when I first got my guangxiensis. I
Okay.
have it curled up in my hand. Um,
Okay. That's cool.
yeah, there's a couple like medium-sized pictures where they're getting ready to start doing their color change. They do the reverse ugly duckling. So you have that. Um, and then if you go, it's from June 2021. You'll see. Keep going up. Right there, the next to the eggs, that with the fake green plant
Oh,
background.
okay.
That's that's the same snake, a few years older, and now she is,
Nice.
for lack of better words, a turd brown snake from the front half of her body with some banding, um, and gray eyes.
Okay. I think Stacy just sent me something. Hold on, let me.
That,
Oh,
so
there we go.
that's another little angry guangxiensis.
Nice.
Um, they're a little spicier in terms of being, but I feel like that's more of a typical attitude that I've seen from like Cynodon and that whole complex. They do not hood up, but S up a lot.
This is very much reminding me of Friday X. Like that, just the look of it. I don't know if you know the bird eaters too well.
Yeah,
Yeah,
no,
just a little bit of the pattern too, the big eyes, and just how they're essing up, plus the puff of the neck there
yeah.
is like, I'm like, oh, that's cool. Now you're getting me interested, and I shouldn't be because I can't keep them. So
We can talk about that. I know people in New York have them. I think the biggest thing, and they post them, and like it's not. I think it's just New York proper, where everybody kind of gets a little funky. Is the issue, but it's one of those things. I think if nobody calls, you're not bothering anybody. You're not the
I
news.
think
You're
I'm
in.
too public is the problem. I'm way too public. I talk on here once a week, man. Someone's gonna find me. I can't. I
Yeah,
couldn't do it.
I get it. Like that's why you should just move south. Apparently, like all
Yeah.
of our friends are thinking about moving down south. I'm like, Florida's too regulated.
Yeah.
South Carolina is like 50-50. Virginia is regulated in a large part of the areas, but rear fangs always, no matter what regulation you're in, they always fall in like a weird gray area. Because sometimes you'll see it medically significant, and then you're like,
Okay.
okay, it's not a problem. Other times, because like they've taken hognose off. Some states they have a white list or like a list of species, and you can ask them, like, hey, can I get this added to the list? It's going to take some time, but they might add it to the list. Um, but that's the biggest thing is the verbiage gets a little weird.
Yeah.
Um, a lot of regulations say poisonous snakes, and the only poisonous snakes you have in the hobby are the keelbacks
Right.
that we know of because we're not going around eating them because a lot of these cost a bit of money. Um, so it's a 50-50 kind of mix.
Right.
Yeah.
All right. Cool. Um, I do want to ask a bit about, you kind of talked about it, or actually, I don't know if we talked about it on here, but like you're in the process of moving, doing a pretty big move,
Yeah.
to North Carolina, right? Yeah.
Yeah. North Carolina.
From PA, so not a short distance away. It's a good move. You keep a lot of
7
animals in,
hours.
yeah, you keep a lot of animals in cages. You have a lot of lizards. That's like, just there's a lot going on. What is that like? Because I was telling you beforehand, I mean, I moved from Florida to New York last year, and granted, while it wasn't the most like simple thing in the world, like we got it done, and that's because I keep a lot in racks. So like the racks went in one place, and I was able to pack up all the snakes and drive them in my car in one shot. So like it was simple, and I feel bad saying that because it's probably a lot more stressful for a lot of people with a lot more animals than I do. But like I just want to hear, and especially for the audience too, that probably probably a lot of people haven't had to do this or done this before, but like, just what's that whole process been like? Because yeah.
So first thing is, especially if you have a bigger collection, um, it's a lot of prep work. But your first thing is just take a solid inventory of what you have. Get it in one place, not on two sheets, just one sheet, get an idea. So like for us, like the snakes, it's easy for me because it's like, okay, go to the room, count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. But you know, with my girlfriend and our collection that we have shared, we have the lizards that are cohabs, we have the frogs that we breed. So it's a big extra thing that we got to check because we were looking at, hey, I'm going to open up a whole bunch of enclosures. So I have to, one, make sure I'm not losing anything because, you know, you're trying to grab things. And if you're breeding a spawn of dumpies, which is what we breed mostly, you're several hundred frogs and, you know, you got them in like 2 or 3 cages to break it down. So it's not a complete swamp mess every 36 hours from all the frog poop and everything like that. But get that in one place, have an idea. And then next thing you know, for us, since we're show vendors, so we're used to packing up animals.
Yeah.
We're like, okay, what is the most logical size for me to have this in? All right. You can keep everything in the cage if you want to, if all your stuff is in one place. It's not, you know, decorated as solid, but you're running a risk of anything shifting during transport, a door opening, or whatnot. So most likely, if you want to do it that way, you're going to pull your animal out. So you need to know what size of tub, rack, bag, what's going to be the least stressful for this animal. This move is a bit more stressful because it's Stacy breeds blue tongue skinks, and we have one time a year to get them going.
Yeah.
And breeding season just wrapped for them, so now they're on heat. They want to stay warm, so it's like, what can we do to minimize the amount of stress so we still have a productive year? Because it just kind of worked out at a crappy time. At that point, it's what's the most efficient way to Tetris this inside of it in the vehicle? Are we going to run a box truck? We're going to put the enclosure on a trailer. It all breaks down on what your budget is and where you're heading, like how long of a trip you have.
Yeah.
What's probably going to happen is means like I've already started bringing some of the smaller stuff down, so I have space for the bigger enclosures. But it's grab what you can, grab everything out, keep it labeled so you know where everything is. As soon as your enclosure's empty, piece of tape over the doors, empty, and put the number if you want to have it correspond to a certain enclosure. Some of your enclosures are kind of cookie cutter, like, you know, like a rack, and they all look the same sometimes if you set them up right. It's, hey, I got a hide here, I got a water bowl up front, and a couple other small things.
Yeah.
Or with cages, it's a little bit easier because every cage is a little bit different, at least for me. So, you know, just put 1, 1, 2, 2, and just break it down that way so you don't accidentally confuse things. Because my one rack that I moved and I got to resex them now. I just knew where they were because I didn't have them labeled because I was stupid. So now I got to relabel everything because they got shuffled around. They got pulled out of their original tub.
Right.
But just keeping track of it that way is a big thing to kind of work on. And then the other thing, just like with shipping, heat is more of a factor that's going to cause harm than the cold.
Yeah.
So right now it's still kind of cool outside, so it's good. Kind of slow everybody down a little bit. We'll probably end up putting a face pack, maybe heat pack in with the adult blue tongues, at least the females, so that way, you know, we can kind of keep them stable and a little bit warmer than everything else. But everybody else is going to be in an insulated box and just that, maybe a face pack, and break it down of how can I orchestrate everything so you can put a little bit of styrofoam organizational in the bigger boxes. If you go that way, anything that's going in a deli cup is going to go in one of those black HDX totes that we use to transport animals, and just keep it as stable as possible.
Yeah.
But load your cages on first, so that way less time your animals are out there. And then once everything is ready to go, animals in, and then rock and roll.
Yeah. And trust me,
It
guys, it's
sounds
a
simple.
lot. Oh, yeah. It's a lot easier said than done. Trust me. And like, even with me with the racks, like, I remember, like, I was just like, the day we were like packing up the racks and the animals and stuff, it was like dumping the tubs, cleaning everything like real quick. And granted, like I don't have a ton, so like for you, it's definitely a lot more difficult. But like it
Yeah.
was like get everything out, clean it. Then it's like packing all the water bowls in a certain box. Then like stripping the tubs out of the racks, moving the rack onto the truck, then putting the tubs on there, like putting the tubs back in and like taping it back up. So like it's a whole freaking thing. Like it's not simple.
That's the one thing I will say. If you know you're moving, I would say this personally, and this is kind of where we've been at because I've also been away from our collection. So Stacy's been working and taking care of 300 animals by herself for the most part. Um, Deep clean when you empty, but leading up to it, if you know about it, just spot clean the best you can. Don't worry about
Yeah.
wasting it because as long as it's not unsafe for your animal, like it spilled its water bowl everywhere. And at that point, if somebody does like a big mess like that, I'm putting you on paper towel if I know you're moving because it's going to be quicker for me to clean up.
Yeah. Yeah. I think I started doing that actually leading up to it. Like I started throwing stuff on paper. Just because I was like, I know actually I think that's exactly what I did. I think a week in advance I cleaned everything out, put it on paper towel. And I was like, I know this is going to be a shit show in about a week. So we're just going to have to strip paper towel and call it a day.
Yeah.
So yeah.
The one good thing, like with most of my bioactive or like naturalistic enclosures, it's like I don't have to strip clean you. Like I'm going to use this as a time to like go in, take some old dirt out, put some new dirt in, and to refresh them a little bit. Certain enclosures like used to go in and like fertilize my plants a little bit with like aquarium fertilizer, mix it up, and use that. Um, so it's nothing dangerous to the snakes or anything like that. Where I'm using like chemical fertilizer from like a garden store, or whatnot. Um, and it's worked pretty well for me. But that's like the one thing you can use the move to your advantage, or you can make it kind of take advantage of you. I also have a bit of background in logistics. I've been working for FedEx for the last almost 6 years now. So
All right.
my entire mentality and job is teaching people how to cube out trucks and make things look pretty and neat.
So you know the
These
secret why all our boxes get stuck at Memphis.
I don't work at Express, but Memphis and Atlanta just seem to be black holes because of how big they are. But please don't come at me. Don't yell at me. I don't have
that
access
was
to
a joke.
Express. I
That
know.
was a joke.
I know. I know. Um, Trust me, if I could, I probably would have moved over there and been like called up some people and be like, "Hey, can I be your customer support like contact and like
Yeah.
figure this out with FedEx?" Be like, "Look, just give me all your live animal shipments that come through Memphis. I'll be the guy. I'll just run around and track them down for you guys. We got this."
Yeah.
But unfortunately, Tennessee doesn't like rear fang snakes, so I can't go there.
Gotcha. All right. Yeah, so cool, man. It seems like you have it all figured out. I wish you guys the best of luck. I hope it all goes, smoothly and all goes well. So
Yeah,
yeah.
I think we'll be all right. We got a lot of friends coming down. I think the fun part is depending on when we start bagging up animals is going to be the biggest challenge.
Right.
If it's after light, if it gets close to lights out or the back half of the day, it's going to be a challenge because all my Boiga are going to turn on. But
Oh yeah.
if I get them before, I'll be all right. But it's I think we got a solid plan. Only spent $300 in deli cups and bags and totes to get ready for this.
Yeah. I hear ya. Cool. Um let's see. I'm curious just like overall, your perspective of Boiga in the hobby. Do you think they'll gain more popularity? Obviously, as we kind of referenced before, there's a little bit of like the legality in some places which makes them hard to keep. So like what are your thoughts in that?
So I think they're definitely people are definitely interested in them. They definitely want them. I think it's right now the access to them is limited. It's only a couple people work with them or imports. And then people get a little scared about the legality thing is, but a lot of the times it's unless you ask, you don't know. Like I know Clint reached out to me and asked me about a list of Boiga for when they were planning Colubrid Fest because they were making sure they were legal. And he reached out and they're like, yeah, they're all fine.
Okay.
Even though it doesn't read the right way, but you have it in writing, you know what's coming. So the state agencies and stuff that are there, and a lot of times they don't even know what they are. So people could
Right.
be keeping and not even realize it. Like PA, it's a little while it's a haven state for the most part, they don't really care unless it's native or turtles. Please, for the love of God, everybody, leave the turtles alone. Okay, turtles equal feds. It's just if you've been
Yeah.
in the hobby long enough, you realize this.
Right.
Um, but if you work it in that way, it's relatively simple. Like I had somebody try to buy an animal and had to check it. Like I'm working on a list with Stacy as we go through, and basically, if I even see that state, I'm like, I either need to see a permit or I can't sell it to you. And so that's something I've been working towards. I know they changed around a lot, but I think for the most part, once you get past that initial unweariness, most people aren't going to give you too big of an issue.
Okay.
Most places, if they because if they allow hog noses and everything like that, it's usually not regulated. And a lot of times they don't lump them in with the medically significant stuff. So some states it'll literally say it'll list like boom slangs and teletornus or the twig snakes, but everything else after that is okay. You know, in terms of colubrid wise, I think there's not enough. The only one that you cannot have in the states is the irregularis. They're federally illegal because of what happened on Guam, which unfortunately also stops people from having the night tigers from Australia,
Okay.
which are they look like candy canes. They're like
Really?
orange, red, and white. They're if you look at Ashley's page, she has a couple
Okay.
pictures of them. She's got one up in Canada. Um, but those are the only ones that we can't have in the states, like 100%.
Got it.
There's one, I think there's some at the Smithsonian in DC. They moved them without calling U.S. Fish and Wildlife, and they got fined for it.
Wow.
Even though they have permits to have them, they were anytime they moved it, they had to call them, and they'd have to watch
Like physically move it throughout the museum? Wow.
throughout the zoo because it's a live specimen. So they had it out near where the pandas were inside of an enclosure.
Okay.
They moved it off exhibit in this regulated, permitted structure,
Yeah.
but because they did not call U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service, they got a fine.
Wow.
Yeah,
Interesting.
that's how crazy they are about them. Because if you ever go to the zoo and you look at the birds thing, like anything from Guam, and they're like, "Oh, that's critically endangered," it's because of the brown tree snake.
Okay. Gotcha.
So
All right. Um, I hope this next question doesn't come off the wrong way, but I'm intrigued. Do you think so? Not that I think that's the correct way to approach it, but like as I'm sure you know, in Florida, Boiga require are part of like what's required on the 1,000 hours.
yeah,
Not that there should be any extreme thing of that. Do you think people should have some sort of like professional training with them before getting into them, or at least with certain species, maybe?
that's that's a hard kind of like middle place to be.
Yeah.
Um, like I'm
And again, this is not me trying to like
no
villainize
no I
Boyga
no
because like I really like them. I can't when it comes to anything rear fanged and then even venomous, like I just can't um look past the aspect of what if you have the bad reaction to it, you know?
So I kind of go both ways before. I, I'm not a fan of government intervention on a lot of things,
Sure.
but it is in the same sense because I know our hobby, and our hobby usually shoots itself in its own foot plenty of times, and causes a majority of its own problems. I would like to find a way to just get a middle ground, but because the medically significance of them, I'm not inclined to. But
Fair enough. If that's your answer, that's your, yeah.
if we had to choose something, I'd be like, look, it'd be really hard to find a way to get a class for them because like everyone like Florida has to be in Florida. Like if I were to move to
Right.
Florida because the way their statute works, if I go and apply for the permit because I've lived with them and I've had them, if they approve the permit, I don't need the hours because I'm always working with them in their eyes.
Does Florida do that? I've never. Oh, okay. That's
That's what
interesting.
it
If you
was for a
could
while when we looked at, because like if I owned it and I'm moving there, it's like, hey, I own this, I've worked with this, like it's mine. It's not somewhere else. You can get the permit, or you used to be able to. I don't know if it's the same way now. I haven't been following because I was like,
interesting.
I'm staying out of Florida. Like, just
Yeah.
I'll
No,
visit,
fair enough.
but
Yeah.
um, so there's that aspect of it, but it's a lot more regulation work to figure out, okay, who's going to be the person, the instructor, who's going
And
to be the
maybe
person that,
not even, yeah, and maybe it's not even like official. Like, do you think people should have hands-on experiences with maybe someone such as yourself, like before getting into it?
I I don't think necessarily you have to, but I'm I usually ask the questions. Like I've had people ask me, is like, "Oh, can I buy this?" I'm like, "Do you even know what it is?" Like I think with just some simple vetting for the most part and letting people understand, and I think that's the biggest issue that people have with a lot of. If you see a lot of like the BOI reviews and stuff like that, people jump in and buy something because they think it's neat or cool before doing any kind of looking up or research,
Yeah.
or even checking out the vendor themselves. Because if you know, like I know people talk crap about the importers and stuff like that because they just sell it for cheap and whatnot, but you can't always put the blame on the seller. Some of it has to come onto the buyer.
Right.
If you have people that are like, I know plenty of people that buy from importers all the time. They know what they're getting into. They buy it. They know what's happening. And sometimes you'll buy an animal from an importer that looks a little but you only that's the only option. But going into it, and depending on who that importer is or that flipper is, you can sometimes work things out. Like I've had good and bad reviews from certain people, but it's because I know what I'm getting into. Same thing when buying an animal. I always tell people like, can it bite me? Even if it's like a corn snake or something at a show. An animal at a show is an entirely different than an animal that is in its home, set up properly, and feels secure.
Right.
So I can handle a Boiga at a show. It's not going to be high temp, and most of the time it's just going to sit on my hand and kind of do a
Yeah.
little bit of curling and whatnot. You get that animal home, and now it's up to temp. It's getting used to a new enclosure. It's got stress to it. It might bite somebody.
Yeah.
So I think even just in general for rear fangs, people need to vet themselves a little bit better before they purchase. Even for hognose, one of the hognose I have that I got from a friend of mine was returned from a little girl because it was a hissy snake. But at the show, it wasn't hissy at all.
Yeah.
So, she got scared of a hognose, which some people are. It's that defense mechanism isn't meant to scare people, but it's
Well, it
it's
is.
hard to. That's but it's a natural behavior from an animal. So,
Yeah, of course.
um, and I don't handle my Boiga like all the time. I'll work with them a little bit. I'll take them out, do health checks, or when I'm moving them in between for breeding, or if I'm updating its enclosure, go take some
Yep.
pictures here and there. But I think biggest thing is as a seller, I just need to make sure that you understand what you're purchasing, and I need to make sure that your head is in the right place.
Yeah.
If um, That's why I I don't just like import things and flip them for sale anymore. Like I used to when I first started out before I had a collection. I use it to build up my collection, but I held on to them for a little bit. Like most of the good flippers or importers at this point, like Josh and stuff, they hold on to some stuff for a while, make sure it's feeding, they know what it is, and
Yep.
they're straightforward with what you're purchasing. So I know I'm going off on a tangent, but I think with no regulation on it, but I think we as a hobby need to police ourselves a little bit better and get a better understanding of what we're purchasing nowadays.
Yeah. Great. I think that's a great answer. All right. Um, what do you think the state of Boiga will be for the future? Because kind of like you mentioned, like there's just not a lot of you that are truly keeping and like trying to breed a lot of these species within the hobby. Do you think we'll see more of it in the coming years? What's your thoughts on the future prospects of it?
I think we will, because a lot of people, like myself included, when Coolest first started doing the exports uh, through Europe and stuff, a lot of what we were getting was babies. Um, some of us we sped through them and grew, and a lot of even over in Europe, like we had some of this, and I've talked to a couple people about it, where Tula would get them and they would sell them. People in Europe would buy them first, and then one of us over here in the States through Ashley or directly through Europe, if you had a different connection, would buy babies in and sell the babies and wouldn't hold anything back for founding stock. Now it's been a couple years. Like I grew mine relatively slow, and they're just now getting up to breeding size. So now we have a chance to, if anybody did it the right way, or held on to some here or there, or the people that bought them from those people are at that point, they start figuring out, they might have been able to breed last year, but they didn't have a good year because they were figuring out some kinks. I think the next couple years, if the hobby keeps itself out of trouble, I think it'll be in a good place.
Sure. All right. Very cool. Um, Kind of getting into some of my wrap up questions for you. You've been doing this as you mentioned for quite some time. Obviously, you're moving an entire collection 7 hours, so your dedication is there. But what is it that really keeps that passion burning for keeping reptiles?
I think just having that little bit of a jungle in my house has always been nice. Like I place I just bought that's out in the sticks. I got a big pond, woods behind my house. Having that little slice of nature that I can always call mine, that I can help kind of control and change around a little bit depending on where. Like I'll get there one day. I don't know when I'm gonna get to Southeast Asia. There's so many things I'd love to see down there, but
Oh yeah,
it it gives me a chance to kind of have that and replicate it the best I can and just enjoy that slice. And then just being able to sit there and try to figure out why something's doing that and just the ticks that they have. It's enjoyable getting that certain species to interact with you and work with them and gain their trust. Because I do think it comes to a certain point because my girlfriend go in there and those snakes are like, you're not him. And I
yeah,
come in there and she's like, that one won't feed for me. I come in there and just like, oh, yep, snatch and squiggle right back to its little hiding hole. But I think that's most of it for me. Just that interaction that I get when I do, instead of doing it all the time, it brings me joy.
awesome, cool. Um, what were your thoughts on Colubrid Fest 2025, and what are you excited about for the coming years of that show?
So I liked having whole bunch of like-minded people in the same room.
Yeah.
You have a bit of the old guard and a bit of the new up and comers all kind of interacting with each other and kind of going back and forth because you know you close your mind off and you don't learn anything and you keep it the same way and like constantly. It's like, all right, that works for me. Certain things it's okay, but like the hobby is always evolving. We're getting new technology. There's a big push now for UVB because we're starting to realize what it is for those animals and
Right.
how it helps and changes everything versus keeping everything in racks and tubs. Even the species that you think are fossorial, like still get a little bit of it. But having all those people in the same place and kind of going over it and uniting the community in one place where nobody's really talking smack, like, you go to Tinley or whatnot and not down talking Tinley. Please, I love Tinley. It's great. Um, but you're not sitting there like, all right, I'm just going to even walk, not even look at a table because you just see ball pythons on it.
Right.
You know, everybody, no matter what, was checking out every table, pretty much checking things out, engaging with people, even if it's not something they normally keep, because there's different ways it could change your keeping style. Like
Yeah.
I've learned a lot from frog people because they're looking at rain chambers or trying to find a way to get their temps up and humidity. One of my friends was like, "Here's like a slow drip rain system that's gravity fed," and I was like, "Why didn't I even think about that?"
Mm.
Just putting a basin of water up and using gravity to feed it down, kind of like the chameleon drippers, but for
Right.
an entire
Right.
enclosure.
Interesting.
Yeah. So
Cool.
I think that's putting all of us in one place is a good mindset to kind of work through it and kind of figure out some challenges. The only thing I just hope everybody keeps a positive mindset and doesn't let ego and everything else kind of play into it too much, which I didn't see too much of it. But and it's kind of ever present in our hobby. So you always got to keep that in mind.
Got it. All right. Um, Obviously, besides the move, what does the future look like for Roots, Scoots, and Scales? How does that look for you in the next like 3 to 5 years or so?
Um, well, the non-colubrid focus right now is the blue tongues and the Chinese crocodile lizards for us. We did have a litter born this year. We're going to release a couple of them, but we're holding back a majority to try
Nice.
to get those up and going because that's part of our logo. That was like one of those things that me and Stacy found our way into somehow lucky. Uh, Found our male and then found a female like super quick after and found that and figured it out. Um, but the for me, the Boiga, I want to get to any species that I have a pair of in the next year or two. I want to have a clutch on the ground and I want to be able to offer them
Okay.
some, just most of them are unrelated. I've worked my butt off trying to figure out and get some from different sources.
Yeah.
They have a good mix. So hopefully this year, get everybody and kind of come out to Colubrid Fest and kind of drop that bomb on people if they want them. Like here they are. I can guarantee you they are going to be what they need to be. And then hopefully give everybody a chance to see how awesome they can be as a captive. I know Max Moseru, I think if I don't
Yeah.
spell his name too wrong, he he comes talks to me every Hamburg. He actually has one of my Trigonata that I gave. It's my extra male who unfortunately had a penile issue, so
Hmm.
he's kind of retired. So he has him, and they always ask me questions about their Dendrophila that they have. So getting that interaction with people with like-minded, it kind of helps as well. But having that kind of just keeps pushing me a little bit more, and that's what I'm hoping next year or so I can offer them to people and get people to see something that they really haven't seen before in the hobby.
Awesome. Great, man. Um, what are some of like the best things you see on the colubrid side of the hobby, and then maybe some of the things that you think we could be better at?
Colubrid Fest is one of those things. I think the mindset behind it is great. we unite a lot quicker. We're not gatekeeper as much
Yeah.
as I've seen other hobbies be. Um, Not as clicky either. Like we'll all talk. Don't really see a lot of bad press about us. We're usually pretty good people.
Yeah.
We bleed into a lot of the other subcategories, like the Morelia team. Like I'm slowly converting Owen from reptiles over to Team Colubrid.
But
Um,
he's been like doing a
yeah,
bunch
but
of colubrids for a while.
he wasn't there for a long time.
He doesn't like to
But
claim colubrids, but he is.
he is Team Colubrid. He's breeding more colubrids than he's breeding Morelia now. But it's I think the Colubrid community is probably the best community out there in terms of keeping and being open and working with people. Um, the only thing I have is like there's still a little bit of ego and gatekeeping with certain things. Um, I'm not going to name names, but I have a personal vendetta against one of the old guard because of something that happened at Tinley.
Okay.
Um, it was my first Tinley. I went to go buy a rhino rat snake. I was behind the table while I went to go grab money. Said person walked behind the table, grabbed it, walked off, and then came back and threw the money at the person while I'm standing there with the money in hand like a little kid with a lollipop. Like,
Oh wow.
yeah. So I was that's a little personal grudge, but um, I think for the most part, I can't name the name. I don't want that smoke. A couple
Yeah,
people
no,
know
that's
what had
fine.
happened. I'm sorry, Solid. I can't do it. But I think the biggest thing is we as a hobby need to just stay open with it, be open with our mistakes, be open with anything that comes through as much as we can, and work through it as a community before we let the outside people come in and frame us as weirdos and whatnot. Because most of the time, you don't even know what we have until like we show it off. Nobody unless you look at my electric bill, you don't know what's inside my house.
Right. Yeah.
It's not. Yeah, but I think the Colubrid hobby and the Morelia Python hobby have it right, where we all get together, we all go forth and kind of brainstorm. The monitor community is pretty good about it as well. But I think we're moving in the right direction. We just got to make sure we uh, we don't let a couple bad apples take us out.
Yeah. All right, man. Um, and really the last and final question, but it's really just for you, I'll specialize it, but kind of just an elevator pitch. Why Boiga?
Um, for They kind of fit both worlds. So you have snakes that you can interact with a lot that aren't going to be as temperamental. Like for me, the Cynia, you can keep them simple if you wanted to, just fake plants, dirt, cocoa, peat, mulch, whatever. Or you can get them super fancy. You can have them as a centerpiece, just one in your collection, or you can be like me with a whole bunch. And it makes it very easy. It's an active snake, but at the same time, you have times where you can go in there and you can see it basically curled up like a emerald or a chondro out there just doing some basking and waiting for nighttime. They still are active during the day or that crepuscular zone, so you still can interact with them and see that active nature if you're not a night person like myself. And you have a wide range of colors, not without getting into the morphs and anything like that, where you could have some detrimental side effects because of inbreeding. And it ranges, so you have different sizes. You can, if you can find them, you have all the way down from like 16 to 20 inches, all the way up to 8 to 10 feet. So there's one that's for everybody, um, and it makes it pretty easy to kind of figure out where you want to be. You have your diminutive brown snakes that some people like the Tana Jampiana, or you can get some brightly colored ones like the Cynia, the Niger Steps, and it's a good range.
Yeah.
So
All right. Awesome, man. Well, I think that's a good way to cap off the episode here. We just crossed an hour and 50 minutes. Uh, Besides the fact I have the link to both your Instagram accounts in the description below, but any final words for the audience?
Um, just keep being yourself and stay true to what you like. If you don't like it, don't push it upon yourself. Don't try to follow market trends. That's how you burn yourself out. You work with what you like, figure that out, and everything else will kind of fall into place if you wanted to.
Awesome. Great message. All right, man. Well, it was an absolute pleasure having you on. Thank you so much. But yeah, guys, if you enjoyed this episode, this was episode number 98 of Colubrid Corruption. Make sure you hit that like button here on today's YouTube video. Make sure you hit that subscribe button as well while you're here. Go check us out on all the major audio podcasting platforms as usual. Give us a 5-star review on there. Follow all of my social medias. Those are all in the description below. First link in the description takes you to the Meteoric Serpents Patreon. You should definitely go check that out if you're looking to support the show and get a lot more in terms of perks. But that'll do it for tonight, guys. This was episode number 98 of the Colubrid Corruption podcast with Dan Sheehan. Great conversation talking Boiga, but we'll catch you on the next one, guys. Peace out.